Mr. Laws?
Sir.
Sir, this is not going to count as you appearing for court. You're sitting in the driver's seat of a car. Do you know how many driving while license suspended you have? Do you know how much money you already owe this county for past offenses?
Do I?
And you're going to call from the driver's seat of the car.
I mean, I can move to the passenger seat. I'm at work.
No, sir, you're going to have a no-show for court here today, and I'll put a warrant out for you. So make sure you call in, get a new court date, and show up appropriate for court, not sitting in the driver's seat when your charge is that you're driving around without driving privileges.
Sitting in the driver's seat, that's the only quiet place there is at work.
All right, well, that's a you problem. How did you get to work? Don't answer that. So we're going to go ahead and let you go.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a 48-hour hold. I won't put a warrant out for 48 hours. You need to contact the court after we're done here and get rescheduled for a new day.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, this is a citation. It was issued on September 15th of this year on East Main there in the city of Fenville. This is for interfere with traffic control device. You are here on this citation, Mr. Strample, to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why this happened, or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What would you like to do?
I guess an informal hearing.
All right. Then even though I cannot see you, I would ask that you would raise your right hand the same way that the deputy is going to raise his right hand. So I can
that's
swear
not a
you both
problem.
in. Swear or affirm that any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right, Mr. Stample, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued this citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify in your own behalf. And with that, Deputy Graydonis, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of the citation.
Yes, sir. So it was the homecoming parade was going on for the city of Fenville. So I was using my cruiser to block M89 at West Fenville and pushing cars up onto West Fenville Street from M89 because the parade was coming down M89 and was going to turn northbound on Park Street. So my car was positioned in the roadway in a way that everybody else realized that they had to go onto West Fenville Street. Or I apologize, it's East Fenville Street there. So I was directing traffic. This vehicle in question drove behind my cruiser towards the curb and then turned down Park Street. When doing so, I waved at him and told him he had to go the other way, and he stated he had to go to Wagner's and continued on behind my cruiser. So a passerby saw this and ran into the parking lot and got his license plate information and brought it back to me. So that's how I got his information at the time. And I did attempt to cut him a break because the parade wasn't to that point yet to where he was driving through the parade. So I didn't write him for the fail to yield in my emergency vehicle. I wrote him for the interfere with traffic instead to cut him a break on that due to the parade. It was coming down M89, but it was not on Park Street yet.
And Mr. Strample, just so you know, what he means by that is that's a $400-some ticket instead of this $110 ticket that you have here. All right, Mr. Strample, what is it you'd like to tell me?
Well, he had the police cruiser parked in the middle of the road. There was
And why
a
did you
truck
think
turning
that
the-
was?
Well, I thought that they had it cut off. He barricaded the police cruiser for the main street there and stuff. And I thought they had it cut off and you had to turn right or left at the street there. So I was going to Wagner's, you know, and I went around the corner and he issued on the ticket that it was 5 o'clock when I went through there, which I'm not denying that whatsoever, you know, what time it was, but he did not write this ticket till 7:30 at night at my house.
Well, yes, sir, because he found out who you were.
And stuff.
He was
And,
outside of his patrol car, right, directing traffic. If he had
Yes,
chased
he
you
was.
down, then he wouldn't be able to direct traffic.
well,
Here's
there was a
here's the
semi
problem.
turning the corner. There
Here's
was a
the problem.
semi turning.
Well, here's the thing. I understand he wrote you the ticket later, but why is it that you're contesting that you should have got this ticket?
Oh, I guess I was wrong. I did not know. I was over the corner, and I thought he was turning. The traffic goes through on M89 around, you know, around the block. But there was a semi sitting there, and 3 cars and a railroad track behind them. I could not sit on the track while the semi turned the corner.
Yes. And then after he told you what to do, why didn't you do it that way?
I was in the opposite lane, turning right on it. You know, turning to the right and stuff. And I didn't know where to turn around or anything else. And I told him, I said, I'm going to Wagner's, and I was going to get off the road as soon as I got down there. Then somebody went and got my license number and gave it to him because he did not have my license number.
Well, yeah, because you got away.
And stuff. And he also, when he wrote the ticket, he wrote it for
I just want to be clear that you don't have some argument you're making of why you shouldn't have gotten this ticket. So far, you're just sort of explaining the events of how you got the ticket.
Right.
Do you have any reason why you're contesting that you should not have got the ticket?
Well, one thing is he wrote the ticket for 2002 GMC, and on the back of it, I don't know if you have a copy of the ticket or not, it says BLK, and that's black to me. And the Blazer is silver.
All right. Is your license plate 3K4197?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure it's your car.
Yeah, it's my wife's car, is more both of us.
So, sir, I would find you responsible on this citation as it's issued. But because you had a contested hearing, you do have the right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I wish to take this to formal hearing. But to do that, you must ask for that within 7 days of today's date, and you must come in and do that formally because you would have to post a cash bond. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yes, I do.
All right. Then you are all set. We can go ahead and release parties. Thank you.
Well, you know, I'll plead guilty to the ticket. The thing I didn't like is 2 points on the ticket. You know, the fine is no problem. Sir, I've been through just, it's nothing against anybody or anything. My boy was killed in 2020, November 15th, down here by an Allen County Sheriff and the state police, and I do not have any justified. I know that not all of them are guilty, but I just feel that way.
Well, let me put it this way, sir. You would have got far more points and quadruple the fine if the deputy hadn't already given you the break he gave you.
So what's it going to cost me for the fine?
$110, sir. I'm going to go ahead and remove you. Thank you. This is a citation. It was issued on September 9th of this year on South Farmer there in the city of Otsego. This is for having a phone while driving. You're here on this civil infraction, ma'am, Miss Allen, to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened, or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Contest the ticket.
All right. Then the first thing I'm going to do is swear you both in. If you could raise your right hands. Swear or affirm that any testimony that you would give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Miss Allen, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. All right?
Okay.
And with that, officer, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense to explain the issuing of this citation.
Yes, Your Honor. On September 9, 2023, at approximately 10:03 p.m., I was sitting stationary near the intersection of North Farmer and East Allegan in the city of Otsego, county of Allegan, when I observed the driver of a silver Chevy SUV traveling southbound on South Farmer on her phone while she was driving. I saw the driver's phone in her hand and to her ear actively talking on the phone. I then made a subsequent traffic stop for the hands-free violation near the intersection of South Farmer and Dick Street in the city of Otsego, county of Allegan. The driver of the vehicle was identified as Cynthia Jean Allen by her Michigan driver's license. She said the reason why she was on the phone while she was driving was to tell her daughter that she was on her way home. I then explained the violation and gave Cynthia a citation under ticket number 011248.
Okay. And ma'am, what is it you'd like to tell me?
So first of all, I didn't have my phone in my hand, and I explained to the officer when he pulled me over, my phone wasn't in my hand, it was in my lap, and I was not holding my phone while I was driving. My daughter called on her way home from Indiana, and I answered the phone to see where she was at and how she was doing on her travels. I only picked up my phone when he pulled me over, and I hung up the phone and set it on the center console, but it was in my lap. He advised me when I told him that the law stated that I was not to have my phone in my lap, which afterwards, after receiving the ticket, I researched it, and the law states not to have your phone supported by your hand, your arm, or your shoulder, which I didn't. I told him it was in my lap, and he told me that the law stated I was not allowed to have my phone in my lap.
Okay, how did you take the call though?
I just touched the button, and my phone was laying in my lap when she called. I hit the button.
But man, here's the rule. You can only have your phone while you're driving to do two things: to make a hands-free phone call, like over Bluetooth, or if you're on GPS or something like that, your phone has to be dash mounted.
Right. Well, and I advised him that I was driving my boyfriend's truck at the time, which I normally don't do. And that's why my phone was sitting in my lap, was because I was waiting for my daughter to call to tell me where she was at. I knew she was on her way home, but I didn't have my phone in my hand.
Okay, but man, how are you making the phone call?
Like I said, and when I researched it, it said that you were allowed to do a quick touch of your phone. You can't be on your phone. I can't be making a phone call, but with my phone sitting in my lap, when it lights up, I just have to tap that button real quick and say, hey, it's on speakerphone. So I'm not holding my phone or holding my phone. And she called while I was sitting at the red light.
Officer, I just want to be very clear. When you say that she was on her with her phone in the hand, do you mean after you made the stop, or you observed that before you made the stop?
Was after I had made the stop. I do apologize. Cynthia was right in her statement that it was in her lap. I did see the screen illuminate the inside of the vehicle based on what I remember now. And that was the reason why I initiated the traffic stop, for the illumination of the screen, and she was talking, and I did see the phone in her hand also before the stop as well.
Okay, okay. Here's what I want to be very clear about. You see a car coming south, and you think that they're in violation of this particular statute, because why?
Because of the illumination of the screen inside the vehicle illuminating her face. And I also saw the phone in her hand while she was about to hang up the phone.
Okay, here's my problem with that, officer. What if that phone had been dash mounted? Wouldn't you also see it illuminating her face?
The way I was positioned, if the phone was dash mounted in that vehicle, I would have been able to see the phone from my position.
Okay, what if she has her phone down here? In other words, here's what I don't understand. If you see someone with their phone in their hand while they're driving, they're pretty much always going to be liable the way this statute is written. But just because you can tell somebody's phone is on in their car while they're driving, i.e. illumination, there are several ways that they could be doing that and still be in compliance with the statute. So I'm just trying to narrow down. Are you saying because you saw that the phone was on, that then you assume they might not be doing it the correct way? Or are you telling me you could see her doing something that would mean that she was using her phone the incorrect way while she's driving?
I saw her phone in her hand along with the illumination.
Okay.
I'm
And
sorry,
that's
that's
the reason.
true.
And that was the reason, yes.
All right. And based upon that, ma'am, in other words, just so we're real clear here, you can make a phone call while you're driving, but it's essentially has to be hands-free. Hands-free doesn't mean that, you know, you made the phone call and then set the phone down and are talking through the air. You have to have your phone set up that you're able to make those calls without using the phone traditionally the way you would use it in your hand. Well, the testimony I have here today is it's, at least at some point while you're driving, that's how you were making this phone call. That's what would make it be contrary to the statute.
And I understand that. And the officer saying that he saw my phone in my hand is a blatant lie, because my phone wasn't in my hand. And also, I have tinted windows and I was driving a pickup truck. So there's no way that he could even have seen that I had a phone in my hand, because when you look at that truck, when it's dark, my phone screen shuts off 2 seconds after I answer a call in the first place. So my phone wasn't illuminated at any point until he pulled me over and I hung up the call. When I told my daughter, I'm being pulled over, I need to hang up the phone.
All right, but ma'am, and that's where your version of events doesn't make any sense. If that's true, then essentially what this officer did is just pull over a random vehicle and assume, oh, maybe they're on the phone and I can get lucky for this statute. He's pulling you over because he essentially knows you're on the phone. What you're telling me is there's no way he could know you were on the phone.
There isn't, and he pulled me over because my license plate said bad guys, and I was driving a loud pickup truck. I'm 100% sure that's why he pulled me over. He had no other reason to pull me over, because my phone was not in my hand. My screen was not illuminated until he pulled me over.
Okay, but then ma'am, listen to what you're saying. What you're saying is that he pulled a random vehicle over because, you know, he didn't like the license plate. And then he just got extremely lucky because you are in fact making a phone call.
He saw my phone illuminate when I hung up the phone when he was walking up to the vehicle. So I'm sure the first thing he said to me is, why are you on your phone? That's the first thing he said to me. Why are you on your phone?
Yes, I believe it's because he could tell you were on your phone while you were driving, ma'am. So I would find you.
I took pictures of my boyfriend.
I would find you responsible on this hearing after listening to the testimony. Here's what I want you to understand. Because you had a contested hearing, you have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to go to what's called formal hearing. Formal hearing is in front of the district court judges. It involves the prosecutor's office. You have every right to do that. But to do that, you must do two things. One, you must do it within 7 days of today's date. This window of opportunity closes. And two, you must come in for that and ask for that formally, because you would need to post a bond on that. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yes.
All right. Then we're all set for what we needed to do here today. I'm going to go ahead and release parties. Thank you. All right. And then, Mr. Hill, you're able to hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. I'm going to read this to you. This says on September 9th of this year on US 131 there at Wayland Township, Allen County, state of Michigan, you got a speeding citation on an actual 100 and a 70. However, the trooper only wrote you for 6 to 10 over on a freeway. And then you have another one, looks like illegal window tint. That's a defective equipment. So you have two different citations. You're here on those citations to do one of three
Yes.
things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citations, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest the citation, in other words, to fight a ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do
Third option, please.
on both matters?
Yes, sir.
All right, then even though I cannot see you, you need to turn your camera on. I'm gonna ask you to raise your right hand, same way the trooper is gonna raise his right hand. Swear or affirm any testimony that you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Trooper as well?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Hill, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the trooper. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued citations. After that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf, all right? Mr. Hill?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, Trooper, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere it makes sense to explain the issuing of these citations?
Yes, sir. On September 9th, I was running stationary radar near the 6-1 mile marker. As a state trooper, I am a certified MCOS radar operator, and the radar unit that I was being used is also certified by the state of Michigan Radar Task Force. The radar unit being used was an operating working condition, and accuracy of the radar was verified at the beginning and ending of my shift that day. This radar unit is a fixed mount unit to the dash of my patrol car. This incident, like I stated before, it occurred on September 9th at approximately 7:45 in the morning while conducting stationary radar. I visually observed a vehicle approach in my direction. I was positioned on US 131 right in the median. I was facing southbound. The vehicle was approaching my direction, heading northbound on the left lane. I could see that my stationary radar was indicating that the vehicle was going approximately 100 miles per hour. Like I stated, the vehicle was in the left lane. There was another vehicle in the right lane. The defendant's vehicle passed that vehicle on the left lane. Therefore, I knew that the vehicle that was passing was the one that was going 100 miles per hour. I then pulled out of the median and I attempted to catch up to the vehicle. It took me approximately maybe 1 mile.
Mr. Hill, I don't know what's going on your end, but you need to be quiet while there's testimony, all right?
Recalibration. My bad.
Okay. Proceed, Trooper.
So it took me about a mile, maybe 2 miles to catch up to the vehicle to make a traffic stop. I then made the traffic stop, and I informed the driver, Mr. Hill here, the reason for the stop. He right away proceeded to ask why I did not stop him back where I was positioned, and I informed him that due to the speed that he was traveling at, obviously it would take me time to catch up, and I can't activate my emergency lights right away until I catch up to the vehicle. I then informed him the reason for the stop again, and I asked for his driver's license, insurance, registration. I then went back to my patrol vehicle where I printed the citation for the window tint and the speed. I then went back to his vehicle and tried to explain the citation to him, and he just was not compliant. He was not willing to listen to me. He just told me to give him his ticket so he could leave.
Okay, and what windows on the vehicle are you referring to for the tint violation?
The driver side and passenger side, they were both blacked out. When I approached the vehicle, I couldn't see if there were one or two passengers in the vehicle. I could not see anything. And when I made contact with the driver through the passenger side, he only lowered down approximately 3 inches of the window. The driver was wearing a black ski mask, and I could only see his eyes. So at that time, I was a little cautious just because I didn't know what was going on exactly in the car, just because I couldn't see anything inside the car when I approached the vehicle.
And Mr. Hill, what is it you'd like to tell me?
Can you repeat that, sir?
What is it you'd like to say?
Contest all of it. Alleged, all the allegations contesting. I didn't know. Not
Okay,
true.
and now's your turn to testify if you wish to.
I mean, like you said, I attempted all these things. I'm just saying, like, all I'm saying is I was behind the vehicle on the right side when I seen the officer. I was on the right side of the interstate. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. It just, no, I didn't speed. That's all I can say. And when he pulled me over, I was passing a vehicle from the right side on the left. I was not doing 100. That's all I can say.
Okay, well, how fast were you going?
Literally 77.
Okay, sir, that's exactly what you have a ticket for.
No, he has me doing a ticket for over the exceeding limit.
No, sir, you're not listening.
Yes,
he didn't write you. He did not write you a ticket for going 100 miles an hour. That would be a 30 over. He wrote you a 6 to 10 over. So yes. You are accused of going 76, 77, 78, 79, or 80 miles an hour. You just admitted to me you're going 77.
77, yes, sir.
Okay.
I was not speeding. I'm doing 77.
No, sir. The speed limit is 70.
Okay, for his jurisdiction, but that's not my jurisdiction. It wasn't. That's what I'm saying. For y'all jurisdiction, all I'm saying is I was behind the vehicle. I'm literally.
Sir, what do you mean your jurisdiction?
What I just said. You heard what I just said. Jurisdiction. Do we need a dictionary?
No, sir. You're the one that's using the word in the wrong way.
I'm using the words that I'm saying, and I'm articulating the words that I'm saying. I was not speeding. I was not speeding, and no matter that was.
And then how are you contesting the tint violation, sir?
How am I contesting?
Yes. What would you like to say about the tint violation?
About the tint? Not another one. My window's been like that for so many years. Now all of a sudden,
okay, that doesn't mean it's legal, though, sir.
Huh?
Your front window and your driver and your passenger side windows can't be tinted.
If that's a problem, take it up with the service company that did it. And I told him that. I told him that from the jump. I told him that.
Sir, you're the one that's driving the vehicle.
Why would the company put it on the car if I couldn't drive it?
Because there's some states you're allowed to do that, sir.
I'm not violating any guideline.
Right. I think this is maybe what we meant by your conversation on the side of the road. So, Mr. Hill, I would find you responsible on both of these citations.
No, he said I'm doing 100, but he can't catch up to me.
You would have a right to appeal, but that right to appeal you'd have to do within 7 days of today's date, and you'd have to come in and post the cash bond in order to appeal this further to formal hearing. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
So I have to appeal. So I got to go up to the court again and to appeal this again in 7 days?
Well, sir, you'd have to pay the fines up front in order to have a formal hearing, because I just found you responsible on both of these citations as written.
I don't see how I'm responsible for something and I'm doing the speed limit.
Okay, you're not doing the speed limit, sir. That's the problem by your own testimony. I'm going to go ahead and release parties. Thank you. Thank you, Trooper. All right, so William, I'm assuming you are William Ostrander, right?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a citation. This was issued on September 20th of this year on East Superior Street there in the city of Wayland. It's a speeding citation on an actual 37 and a 25. However, the officer only chose to write you a ticket for 1 to 5 over. So, Mr. Ostrander, you are here on this speeding citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. Two, you could admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, to fight this ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I would like to contest this
All right.
citation.
And the first thing I'm going to do is swear you both in. You can go ahead and raise your right hands. Swear or affirm any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Wait, can you say again? Sorry. Say it really quick.
That anything you would testify to here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Anything I testify here today will be the truth. Nothing.
I just need you to say I do or I will or yes.
Oh, I do. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right, and officer as well, right? All right,
Yeah.
Officer, I don't know if your volume's down, but we did not hear that audio.
Mine?
No, you're fine. Officer Hudson, just try speaking, see if we can hear you. Yeah, your audio's not. It might just be your volume's all the way down. The other thing is, officer, if you can't figure that out, you can just call in on the telephone. That's fine. We need to hear you more than we need to see you. Yep. I can even call you if you, I'm gonna call you, I'm talking to you in the chat, just put your phone number in the chat and I'll call you.
Can you hear me, Your Honor?
Yes,
I don't know what's wrong with my computer. I apologize.
that's fine. Like I said, it's more important that we hear you than we see you. All right, so Mr. Ostrander, on this, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. He has the burden to establish to me why he issued you a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf, all right?
All right.
And with that, Officer Hudson, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation?
Okay. Your Honor, I was on patrol that day in a fully marked patrol car in full uniform, and I was running radar speed enforcement on Superior Street near Wildcat, basically in front of the high school. And I observed Mr. Ostrander's vehicle traveling eastbound on Superior, approaching my location. I activated the radar. The radar emanated an audible tone and displayed a speed of 37. The audible tone was consistent with the speed that was being displayed, and as I watched the vehicle approach, it appeared to be traveling faster than the posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour. After Mr. Ostrander's vehicle passed me, I pulled out onto Superior, conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle less than a mile away, probably, I want to say if I remember correctly, near the Rabbit River Trailer Park. When I made contact with Mr. Ostrander, I informed him of the reason for the traffic stop. Mr. Ostrander stated he thought the speed limit in that location was 35 miles an hour, not 25, and he thought he was doing only 30 miles an hour versus 37. Subsequently, I cited Mr. Ostrander for just 5 over, not the full amount of 37, and explained the citation to him, and we're here today.
All right, and Mr. Ostrander, what is it you'd like to tell me?
So I recall telling the officer that I was going when I was in front of the high school that I knew it was 25 and that I was going 25 in front of the high school.
Okay, anything else you want to testify to?
And when I went in front of the high school, my speedometer said 25. So I just don't think it's right. I wasn't going 37, you know what I mean? My speedometer would have said that. Unless my speedometer is just inaccurate or something.
So you were looking at your speedometer while you're driving down the road?
I mean, I was checking it, like looking down on it, make sure I'm not speeding in at 25.
Okay. Do you recall telling the officer you thought you were going 30?
No.
Do you recall telling the officer you thought the speed limit was 35?
No, I told him that I knew that in front of the high school it was 25. And then where he had pulled me over, it was right where it switched to 35. That's what I told him. I never said I was going 30, but.
All right. Well, based upon the testimony that he had visually had you as faster than 25, that his radar toned you out and also flashed at 37, he only wrote you for 5 over, which seems to be, by his testimony, what you admitted to anyway. So given the factors between your testimony and his testimony, I would find you responsible here. I would find that he met his burden. Now, because you had a contested hearing, you do have a right to take this to formal hearing. But to do that in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office, you would have to ask for that within 7 days of today's date. And you would actually have to come in and ask for that formally because you would need to post a bond and the amount of the fine. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
So you're saying if I want to appeal, I have to come into the court to do it?
Well, yes, you have to post a bond, so you have to put up the money to have a formal hearing. And then you would have a formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. But they still might be doing that by Zoom. But yeah, you'd have to come into the courthouse at least once to post your bond.
I see what you're saying.
Other than that, we're all set with what we need to do here.
Is that where I would go about like figuring out if my speedometer was reading off or something?
What do you mean?
Like what? How do I go about to see if my speedometer is like off? Because I have large wheels on my truck as well. I'm not sure if that reads inaccurate or something.
You could take it to a mechanic, but the whole large wheel speedometer off thing, we hear that once in a while. That would give you a couple of miles. There's no way that it's going to give you 12 miles. All right. But you have every right to try. Thank you.
So that's where I would do that, would be in the formal hearing?
Well, you could have done it today, but you just saying it might be what's happening, it doesn't really do much as far as testimony. If you took it to a mechanic and they were willing to testify, that might count for something. It's court. It's the rules of evidence.
I see what you're saying. So I should go to a mechanic and then take it to a formal hearing with the mechanic testifying?
You could do that.
That's the only way I would be able to do that now, is what you're saying?
No, sir. I wouldn't give you legal advice in the first place, but in the second place, what I would tell you is a lay opinion is worth way less than an expert opinion. And even an expert opinion on that particular topic isn't going to cover you a 37 and a 25, in my experience, but you have every right to try. I'm going to go ahead and release you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's see here. This is a citation It was written on September 17th of this year on 122nd Avenue, or I'm sorry, might be Street or Avenue. Here in Allegan Township, Allegan County, State of Michigan. This is a civil infraction for careless driving. Ms. Gasper, you were cited for this citation, and now you have a choice of what you want to do on it. You can do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. Two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, to fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I would like to contest the ticket.
All right. So even though I cannot see you, I would ask that you would raise your right hand the same way the deputy is going to raise her right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony that you would give here today was the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. And the deputy does as well. All right. So, Ms. Gasper, it does make a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. She has the burden to establish to me why you were issued this citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have the opportunity to either ask questions or testify in your own behalf. All right?
Okay.
And then with that, Deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense, explain the issuing of this citation.
Yeah, of course. I was assisting with traffic control on that date on September 17th of 2023. It was around 12:30 when I started. At the intersection, there was a large country music festival concert that was going on. We had a lot of traffic, so we were doing manual traffic with deputies in the intersections. I had stopped by it was near this intersection, 122nd and 27th. There were two other deputies and myself. We had on traffic control vests. They both had traffic wands and were stopping traffic flow and then directing them through as needed. Miss Gasper was stopped, and she had originally she'd come up to where we were telling her to stop at a very high rate of speed. Both deputies, we thought she wasn't going to stop. We thought she was actually going to strike us. She came to a stop. I made contact with her and asked her what was going on. And she seemed really frustrated and agitated because she had been rerouted due to the traffic because of the concert. I told her she needed to wait. She got more agitated because she wanted to go. I told her she needed to wait until the other deputies told her she could move through the intersection. And then when one of the deputies had told her that she could move through, she just floored it and raced right between them. Like, she was so close to both the deputies. I then went to quick pursuit and stopped her. And her explanation was, well, she was told that she could move. She was told that she could go. And I explained to her that it was not because she was told to go. It was because of her rapid acceleration and close proximity to myself and the other deputies. So that was why I cited her for the careless driving.
All right. And ma'am, what is it you'd like to tell me? Ms. Gasper? Jamie, are you still there?
I'm sorry, I had my phone on mute. I'm so sorry. Yes.
That's all right. What is it you'd like to tell me?
Yes, sorry. So I was in town working the concert. I am from California. I was in town with my California license plate car, and I'll get into the reason that these details are important in a minute, but I was in town working the concert. I had no idea. I work hundreds of concerts all the time. I had no idea that this was going to be as crazy of a scenario as it was. I had no idea where this was located, out in the middle of nowhere, all of those things considered. After waiting over 2.5 hours to get out of the parking lot, because again, I had to come from back where the tour buses were parked. By the time I got out, I had no service on my GPS whatsoever. I was told on my GPS to go left. They forced me to go right. I did as I was told. There was no me flying up, because I would love if there's any video footage or anything like that to make that a part of this, because there's no way, with the way the traffic was, literally being one car at a time, stop, go, hundreds of cars piling out of this parking lot. It was physically impossible for me to floor it up to them and not stop. I then turned right like they forced me to, and my GPS was telling me to go the opposite way. There was nothing blocking the road or stopping me from turning around. So I did just that. I turned around and I came back. And when I stopped, this woman said, "Didn't you just go the other way?" And I said, "Yeah, but I turned around and I came here." And I literally stopped. And she was nasty to me the entire time, very, very aggressive for no reason. And I'm stopped there and I'm waiting. And I waited, I don't know exactly how long, but it was definitely a very extended, exaggerated amount of time. And then I went. I never floored it out of there like she's saying. She's saying that I was so close to that. That is not true. I waited until I was safely allowed to go. I was issued the okay to proceed and I went. I did not floor it out of there. I, again, don't know the area very well, and perception is everything. But if I'm not mistaken, the road had a little bit of grit to it, and it was raining. So therefore, I'm sure there was some noise being made from the tires or something like that, but I certainly did not floor it out of there. Then when she pulled me over, I said, "What's going on? Why are you pulling me over?" She immediately asked questions about why I'm here, what I'm doing with an out-of-state car. And then I was able to answer all of her questions and show her that I was working for the concert. Then she starts harassing me about the fact that she couldn't see the VIN number in my windshield. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, here." And I opened the door so she could get the VIN number from the inside. I was more than happy to work with her, what have you. Then when she couldn't, count me on that, then she makes me get out of the car and makes me do a sobriety test on the side of the road. I was working this concert. She has me standing on the side of the road in the rain, following her light and doing all these tests when you know that I was working. And I wasn't even, like, she literally just tried to go through everything of the book that she could. And when she couldn't get me on those three things, then she said that I sped away. It wasn't like she knew what she was coming to get me for. She was just trying to go out of her way to make me an issue, and I did nothing wrong. I did what I was told. I did not know where I was going. I was following my GPS with the little service that I had, and I went when the officers told me to go.
Ma'am, here's the problem. You listened to your GPS instead of the 3 officers wearing safety vests and wands who were clearly there to direct traffic in the most efficient way possible so that people didn't have to sit and wait 2.5 hours.
But sir, with all due respect, I was not listening to the officers either. I went the way that they told me to go. Then I turned around there was nothing instructing me not to. I had every legal right to safely turn around. And then I came to a stop where the officers were directing traffic. I then went when those officers told me to go and not a moment before, and not fast.
And the officer clearly knew what she was going to pull you over for. Right?
But she didn't. No. The thing is she came after me, and she first started by harassing me about out-of-state plates. Then she harassed me about thinking that I was drinking. Then she harassed me
because
about
what person would act that way right in the presence of officers directing traffic unless, I don't know, maybe they weren't thinking clearly, like they were intoxicated. I don't find it suspicious at all that she'd run you through dexterities after you handled yourself the way you did, the way the officer described at the... What?
I did not, though. That's the thing, is I did not do what she's saying I did. She was harassing me, and then
let me ask the deputy some more questions. Deputy, did you issue any other traffic tickets that evening?
I did, yeah.
Any other carelessness?
Yes, I did.
What was the nature of the other tickets?
The other woman completely disregarded other law enforcement and went through a traffic barrier and around. And through
so
and
you did
against
this twice?
Yeah, this woman, they couldn't
Out of how many
her
people?
because of this traffic. Yeah, so I issued 2 careless tickets, and then for her failed to yield to law enforcement. But that was a different female.
Out of how many cars?
Oh, I can't even, I don't even know. There were so many cars.
I'm assuming we're talking hundreds.
There was, yeah, a lot, like Ms. Gasper said, there was probably thousands of people there that day.
Thousands. Yeah. All right. So Ms. Gasper, out of thousands of cars that had to approach these deputies who are trying to just do their job to direct traffic. The only other time they had an issue was another woman they also issued the same ticket to for doing essentially the same sort of thing.
No. That woman, as she just spoke, that woman moved a barrier and completely disregarded officers. I did not move anything I was not supposed to. I did not go in any area that I was not supposed to, and I did not disobey any officer's commands. So no, you cannot compare me to this other ticket. And I also would like to know what is the out of the thousands of cars that were there, how many of them were out of state cars? And out of the tickets that she issued, how many of us were out of state drivers? That's what I'd like to know as well.
But here's the issue is she didn't issue you anything for failing to obey a law enforcement. That's actually a crime. This is a citation for the way that you handled yourself as far as driving when there's pedestrians, even if they're officers, that's still on foot directing traffic. Ma'am, listen to me. I would find you responsible on this citation as written. Now, here's what I will explain to you. Because you had a contested hearing, you would have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to go to formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. If you were to exercise that right, I'm sure, Deputy, do you recall the two other officers that you were directing traffic with?
Yes.
I'm sure those other officers would be called as witnesses, ma'am, and then you'd at least be able to hear it from multiple officers. They thought what you did was inappropriate instead of just this officer. Because well, they wouldn't have footage, ma'am, unless their lights, sirens were on.
Why is there not video footage on the cars that were parked there in the center of the road? Why is there not video footage on the officer's car when she pulled me over? Why
ma'am, I don't know if there was video footage. There may be, but that's something you'd have to request from the prosecutor's office. But either way, ma'am, listen to me. If you wanted to have that formal hearing, you'd have to ask for that within 7 days of today's date. And you'd have to come in person to the courthouse and post a bond.
To see video footage.
Well, ma'am, there is no discovery in civil infractions, but you could try talking to the prosecutor's office about that. But I just want to make sure you understand, for you to appeal this, you have to ask for that within 7 days of today's date, and you have to come in here to court in person and post a bond. All right? But with that, you're all set. Unless you wish to accept my finding of responsibility, then you'd need to make arrangements to pay your fines and costs. Thank you.
I do not take responsibility for this. I do want to do something more for this, and I do want to know what other options I have available. Your little honking that clown horn was not acceptable.
Okay, but I just explained to you your available options. You understood them?
No, I don't understand, because how do I get this in writing?
Ma'am, listen to me. If you wish
We're on
to
a
take
phone
this
call. I have nothing in front of me. I want contextual information.
If you wish to take this to formal hearing, you must come into court and ask for that formally in writing and post a bond in cash. And you must do that within 7 days of today's date. That will trigger you getting a formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. So other than that, you'd be accepting my finding of responsibility, and you would need to make arrangements to pay those fines and costs. We're all set here.
Okay, so
I'm
as
going to go
I'm
ahead and
telling you
release
right now,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have questions.
Ooh, she had questions. I think I might have hung up on her. All right, thank you, Deputy.
Yes, sir.
All right, on the telephone. All right, on the Samsung, sir, your name, please. Sir, what's your name?
Chad Wobble.
All right. This is a citation that was issued on October 1st of this year, 142nd Avenue there, Door Township, Allen County, state of Michigan. Says a violation of seatbelt law, sir. You are here, Mr. Walma, on this citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Fight the ticket because I never got pulled over, sir.
All right. So what I'd ask both of you to do, I'm going to swear you in. Please raise your right hands. Swear or affirm any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
All right. And Mr. Walma, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. And with that, deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense, explain the issuing of this citation.
Yep. On 10/1 of 2023, around 12 o'clock hours, I observed a 2007 Chevy truck pass me in door. I observed the truck to not have a working taillight, and I observed the driver to also not be wearing a seatbelt and texting on his phone. Then, by the time I caught up to him, Chad had pulled into South Door Park and parked his vehicle. By the time I could get up to him, he had hopping out of the vehicle, but I then activated my lights and made contact with the driver. As we see in this courtroom today, is Chad Walma. I made contact with Chad. I advised him that I pulled him over for his seatbelt, and while being on his phone, he admitted to being on his phone and not wearing his seatbelt.
Okay. And sir, what is it you'd like to tell me?
I was just saying I was already at the dog park. I didn't have no idea he was pulling me over, so I was already at the dog park. I just don't understand how I could get a ticket after I was already at the dog park and the cop pulled in. But first of all, he's lying about my taillight because I have never fixed it yet and it still works. That's not acceptable. I mean, I just don't see how that's acceptable, lying. And then,
sure. Would you like the $200 ticket for being on your phone instead of the $65 ticket for not having your seatbelt?
No, sir.
I'll let you switch it up if you're more comfortable with that one.
No, sir.
All right. As long as the officer observes the offenses, he can write you the ticket the next day if he wants.
Oh, well, if that's the case, I'll pay it then, because I admit 100% I did not have my seatbelt on when I left and went around the corner. I did not have it on. I admit that. So okay. I guess this is a waste of time. I should just pay the ticket because I'm guilty of not having it on.
Well, and the thing is I don't mind you coming in here, because essentially what you're wondering is, how can I get a ticket if I wasn't pulled over? But that's not really how it works. You could actually even get a ticket, because here's the thing. If you're accused, and I'm just 30 more seconds, just because it sounds like you're maybe curious. Say there was a crime, that is when you have to prove something, beyond a reasonable doubt, and you can't use hearsay, and the rules of evidence count. This is not a crime. It's what's called a civil infraction. In other words, the only punishment you get is a fine and not jail. The officer could even have it that some person told him, hey, I just watched Chad Walma drive down the street without a seatbelt, and he could write you a ticket for that.
Okay, now that's what I was wondering, sir.
Because that's a lower standard. But especially if the officer saw the violation themselves, they can write a ticket, and they don't have to write it in proximity to you doing it. In other words, have to, let's call it like catch you red-handed. As long as they observed it, because plenty of times what happens is, say it's a speed trap. Well, they have to start up the car, pull out, catch up to you. What if you just live down the street and you pull in your driveway? Does that mean they can't write you the speeding ticket because you're already in your driveway? No, it's just about whether or not they're able to testify that they saw the offense, and it has to be enough to convince me that it probably happened. So that's where you might be a little confused about
that's why I wanted to take this in. I'm sorry, but if that's the case, I will pay it, sir. I just thought well, how the hell could that be legal?
Yeah,
that's it.
So in other words, the only thing to do here now is to make contact with the court to pay that $65. And then you're all set for what we needed to do here today.
And can I ask you a question, sir? It rained all last week, so I don't got a crappy paycheck this week. Can I have 2 weeks to pay it?
Oh yeah, when you call in, they'll work out with you on what sort of timetable you can do that. They're used to that.
So, hey, sorry for wasting your time. I just was thinking I'm not going to pay a ticket if I didn't get pulled over, but if that's the law, that's the law. It's not a waste
of time. I'd rather have you leaving here understanding why what happened than you thinking you just got, railroaded by the system. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll pay it. I'll make sure it gets paid in full.
All right, thank you.